The first hateful message arrived at 6:13 a.m. I was still half asleep when my phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I reached for it, expecting a work email or maybe a reminder from my calendar. Instead, I saw a notification from Facebook Messenger. "How could you abandon your dying father?" I frowned and rubbed my eyes. A second message appeared. "You're a disgusting daughter." Then a third. "I hope you can live with yourself." My stomach tightened. Within minutes, dozens of notifications flooded my screen. Messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Former classmates, family, friends, even strangers. Every single one of them accused me of the same thing. Abandoning my dying father, my hands trembled as I opened Facebook. The moment the page loaded, I felt the blood drain from my face. At the top of my news feed was a post from my mother. A photo of my father lying in a hospital bed filled the screen. Tubes ran from his arms. His face looked pale and tired. The image alone was heartbreaking, but it was the caption that shattered me. "My husband is fighting for his life. After everything he sacrificed for our daughter, she abandoned him when he needed her most. Not even a phone call, not even a visit. Some children forget who raised them." More than 12,000 people had shared it. Thousands, the comments were even worse. "What kind of daughter does this? She should be ashamed. Her father deserves better. Heartless monster." I couldn't breathe. My own mother had turned the entire family and half the internet against me. I stared at the screen, reading the words again and again, hoping they would somehow change. They didn't. The worst part wasn't the strangers. It was the people who knew me. My aunt commented that she had always worried I was selfish. My cousin wrote that family should come first. A former neighbor said my father deserved loyalty. After all he had done for me. Nobody asked for my side, nobody called, nobody cared. They had already decided I was guilty. Tears burned behind my eyes. For years I had stayed silent about everything that happened inside our family. Every cruel word, every lie. Every moment I was made to feel unwanted. I kept quiet because they were my parents, because I believed family problems should stay private, because part of me still hoped things would get better someday. Now my mother had taken that silence and used it as a weapon. My phone rang. It was my supervisor. The moment I answered, I could hear the hesitation in his voice. "Sarah, are you okay?" I already knew what that meant. He had seen the post too. Everyone had. My humiliation was now public entertainment. After the call ended, I sat alone in my apartment staring out the window. The city outside moved normally. Cars passed, people walked to work. Life continued as if mine hadn't just exploded. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to write a comment exposing every lie, but something stopped me. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was heartbreak, or maybe it was the realization that no one would believe me without proof. As I scrolled through the endless accusations, a memory surfaced from years ago, a moment I had tried desperately to forget. The day I left home, the day my mother told everyone I had chosen to walk away, the day the lies truly began, and for the first time I wondered whether the truth had been waiting all these years to finally be uncovered. The day I left home wasn't the beginning of the story. It was only the moment everyone else started paying attention. The truth had begun years earlier. Growing up, I learned very quickly that love in our house came with conditions. My younger brother, Daniel, never had to earn it. He was my father's pride and my mother's favorite. Every report card, every soccer game, every small achievement was celebrated as if he had changed the world. I was treated differently. When I brought home straight A's, my parents barely looked up from the television. When I won a scholarship competition in high school, my mother simply said, "Good. Now maybe you won't be such a financial burden." At 16, I got my first part-time job. At 17, I was paying for my own clothes. By 18, I was helping cover household bills while attending college full-time. Meanwhile, Daniel received a car for his graduation. I received a reminder to be grateful for having a roof over my head. I spent years convincing myself that if I worked harder, things would improve. They never did. No matter what I achieved, it wasn't enough. No matter how much I sacrificed, someone else deserved the credit. When my father lost his job for a short period, I gave most of my savings to help the family. A few months later, my mother told relatives that Daniel had stepped up and saved everyone. Nobody mentioned my contribution. Nobody even knew. Then came the argument that changed everything. I was 20, 3 years old. I had just been offered a better job in another city. For the first time in my life, I saw a future where I wasn't constantly struggling. I expected my parents to be happy. Instead, they were furious. My mother accused me of abandoning the family. My father sat silently while she shouted. When I explained that the opportunity could change my life, she laughed. "You think you're special?" she asked. "I think I deserve a chance," I replied. The room became deadly quiet. Then she said words I would never forget. "If you walk out that door, don't expect this family to need you anymore. I waited for my father to defend me. He didn't, he simply looked away. That hurt more than anything. So I left, but despite what everyone believed, I never stopped caring." Over the next several years, I secretly sent money whenever my father's health problems worsened. Hospital bills, medication costs, treatment expenses. My mother accepted every dollar. Sometimes she even called asking for more. Yet publicly, she acted as if I didn't exist. Relatives were told I had abandoned the family. Friends were told I only cared about myself. And I remained silent until now. 2 days after her viral Facebook post, I couldn't stop replaying the past. Something felt wrong, not just about the accusations, about everything. I opened an old storage box hidden in the back of my closet. Inside were photographs, notebooks, college papers, and several outdated electronic devices I had never thrown away. One of them was my first mobile phone, a small silver phone from the early 2000s. I almost laughed when I saw it. The battery was dead, but I still had an old charger somewhere. Hours later, after searching through drawers and storage bins, I finally powered it on. Most of the files were useless: old contacts, forgotten photos, ancient text messages. Then I noticed a message dated August 2004. My breath caught. The sender was my mother. The recipient was my father. I opened it casually. 5 seconds later, I nearly dropped the phone, because the words on that screen threatened to destroy every lie my family had told for more than 20 years. My hands shook as I stared at the tiny screen. For a moment, I wondered if I was reading it wrong. The message was dated August 17, 2004. I was 14 years old at the time. The text was short, but every word hit like a hammer. "Stop treating Sarah like she matters so much. She'll never be useful to this family. Focus on Daniel. He's the one who will take care of us someday." I blinked. Then I read it again and again. The words never changed. A cold feeling spread through my chest. For years I had questioned myself. Maybe I had been too sensitive. Maybe I had misunderstood my childhood. Maybe the favoritism wasn't as obvious as I remembered. But there it was, proof, written by my own mother. Not a memory, not an opinion, a fact. I continued scrolling through the old messages. What I found next was even worse. A few weeks after the first text, another conversation appeared. My father had sent my mother a message while I was away on a school trip. "Sarah looked upset this morning. We should spend more time with her." My mother's reply came minutes later. "She needs to learn not everything is about her. Stop babying her. I felt tears filling my eyes. I wasn't imagining it. I never had been. Every lonely birthday, every ignored achievement, every time I felt invisible, it had all been real. The deeper I searched, the more messages I uncovered. Some discussed family finances, others talked about Daniel. Almost all of them painted the same picture: a daughter who was tolerated, a son who was treasured. Then I found the message that changed everything. It was sent years later, just before I left home. The argument that my mother had described to everyone as my selfish decision to abandon the family. But the messages told a different story. My father had texted my mother after our fight. Maybe we were too hard on her. Her response appeared immediately. If she wants to leave, let her go. She'll come crawling back when she fails. My stomach twisted. The entire family believed I had walked away without looking back. Yet here was proof that my departure had been exactly what my mother wanted. She hadn't tried to stop me. She had pushed me out, and then she spent years pretending to be the victim. I sat in silence for nearly an hour. The apartment felt strangely quiet. Outside, rain tapped against the windows. Inside, 20. 2 years of lies were unraveling one message at a time. Eventually, I opened my laptop and began transferring every file from the old phone. I wasn't taking any chances. The evidence needed to be preserved. By midnight, I had hundreds of screenshots organized into folders. The next morning, I contacted a friend who worked in digital forensics. I didn't tell him everything, only that I needed to verify some old records. 3 days later, he called. "The messages are authentic," he said. "No signs of editing. They're real." I closed my eyes. That was all I needed to hear. For the first time since my mother's viral post, I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared. I wasn't even sad. I was calm, because I finally understood something important. The truth didn't need defending. It only needed to be seen. That night, while thousands of people continued sharing my mother's story, I created a new post. I attached screenshots, bank records, emails, and one unforgettable text message from 2004. Then I scheduled everything to go live at exactly 8:00 a.m. By the time the sun rose, my mother's version of the story would no longer be the only one the world could read. At exactly 8:00 a.m., my post went live. For a few seconds, nothing happened. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the screen, my coffee untouched beside me. My heart pounded so loudly that I could barely hear the ticking clock on the wall. Then the notifications started. 1, 10, 50, hundreds. People were opening the screenshots, reading the messages, seeing the evidence. Unlike my mother's emotional accusations, everything I posted was documented. There were bank transfers showing years of financial support for my father's medical treatments. There were emails where I repeatedly asked about his health and offered help. There were messages proving I had never cut contact. And at the center of it all was the text from 2004, the message that revealed what my mother truly thought about me. The reaction was immediate. The same relatives who had spent days criticizing me suddenly became silent. Comments began disappearing from my mother's original post. People who had called me selfish were now asking questions. Wait, if Sarah was sending money all these years, how did she abandon him? Why didn't anyone mention this? These screenshots change everything. By noon, my post had spread farther than my mother's. Friends shared it. Former coworkers shared it. Even people who had never met me shared it. For the first time, the truth was traveling faster than the lie. My phone rang continuously. Some calls were apologies. Others were awkward attempts to explain why people had rushed to judgment. One cousin admitted she never bothered to ask for my side. because she assumed my mother was telling the truth. Another relative confessed she felt ashamed after reading the evidence. I thanked them politely, but the damage had already been done. An apology could not erase years of accusations. Late that afternoon, an unexpected call appeared on my screen. It was my father. For several seconds, I simply stared at his name. Then I answered. His voice sounded weak. "Older, tired, Sarah," he said quietly. I didn't respond immediately. There were too many emotions trapped inside me. Finally, he spoke again. I saw everything. The silence between us felt endless. Then came words I had waited decades to hear. "You deserved better from me." My eyes filled with tears, not because the pain disappeared, but because someone had finally acknowledged it. He admitted he had known about the favoritism. He admitted he should have defended me. He admitted he had stayed silent when silence was easier than confrontation. "I thought there would always be time to fix it," he whispered. There wasn't. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I told him something I never expected to say. "I forgive you." The words surprised even me. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It didn't erase the past, but carrying that anger had exhausted me for years. I was finally ready to put it down. A week later, my father passed away. The news broke my heart despite everything, but at least our final conversation had been honest. As for my mother, her reputation never recovered. People who had supported her began questioning every version of events she shared. The sympathy she had collected disappeared almost overnight. Yet I never celebrated her downfall. That wasn't the victory. The victory was something far simpler. For the first time in my life, I no longer had to defend myself against a lie. The truth had spoken for me. And sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you. It's surviving their betrayal, revealing the truth, and finally finding peace while they are left to face the consequences of their own actions.